there, welcome to the Teeny Tinkers channel. I make ball jointed doll and craft related content. Today I am once again hand sculpting a BJD. I use Super Sculpy living doll clay, which is my absolute favorite for polymer clay. It feels sturdy and it's really malleable when it's warmed up. In the past, I've used foil cores for my limbs and torso. However, I always struggled with pieces breaking when I had to split them to remove the core, especially in the arms and lower legs. Then you have to reconnect the split pieces. I really didn't feel like doing that. My original idea was to sculpt the entire body, then drill it out. I've seen other doll makers do this on a core where they kind of sculpt the entire body, but because I didn't want to have to cut it open, I realized this was going to be really difficult to get the drilling right and to not have it split. So I just went ahead and ripped off the limbs I had started sculpting and just decided to focus on one piece at a time. I ended up adding a bit wider hips and a bigger butt to this doll than I had originally sculpted. I am just a sucker for thick hips and a big butt, although with the end result I'll probably thin it out a little bit. We'll see. Doesn't this butt look like that "Hey, how you doing today" guy where he's like laying on his belly? Like, that's the vibe I'm getting from this part so far. I also considered trying to sculpt both torso pieces separate. I decided against this and instead of sort of shaped the torso, then broke it into its pieces. I was able to hollow out the core and add the channels without messing with the original shape too much. At this point, you may notice I'm sculpting with some pretty unusual tools. I only had a really cheap sculpting set, and they fell apart a really long time ago. So I'm here with a teeny tiny little poker that came with my Cam Snaps kit, and a metal knitting needle. To be honest, it worked much better than I thought it was going to. I also have this wooden piece that used to house a sculpting tool and is now just a weird circle and a wooden handle. I wanted this doll to be a little more androgynous, flatter chest that could pass for male or female, and a smooth, Ken-like bathing suit area. Hollow is pretty thick, and the doll I'm working on right now is even thicker, so I thought it would be fun to have a short string bean character too. I also didn't make a belly ball for this doll. Honestly, in 3D, I'm pretty sure I'm going to. I missed the bend of the belly ball and would like to have it back. So for future versions, we wouldn't have this classic BJD torso like I made this time. It was fun to try and sculpt it this way though. Once I smoothed the new top on, I had to refit the chest piece and the lower torso. When you cut them, they are evenly matched, but as soon as you start adding joints, it gets a little wonky. The chest piece was way too thick around the edges, and it just looked like a Lego man top on top of her, so I had to smooth it down until it fit way better. On my way to the head, I did use a foil core for this part because I literally could not figure out another way to do it. As well, I knew I'd be splitting this piece on purpose after to make the faceplate, and that I wouldn't have to try and reconnect them or smooth it out later. So yeah, I said faceplate. Hollow's original version had this neat tennis ball pattern faceplate where it pulled apart in almost two completely equal pieces, and I really liked that, so I wanted to try it again. I also thought this would open it up that I could make different faceplates for this doll. When sculpting this size, I have a really hard time not making little baby bean faces. By that I mean really cutesy, baby-like sculpts you might see on an OB11 type doll, or kinda like the Kevins. However, I think it did pay off. The cutesy charm of this baby is off the charts, at least to me, and I cannot wait to translate it into an MSD size doll to see how it works. Also, don't worry, the eyes don't stay like that, because right now it looks like it's staring into your soul. As this face was coming together, I was really inspired to do another fantasy doll. The doll I'm working on right now is a human doll, and I love her to bits, and she's so cute, and I'm really excited to show her to you. But there's something about fantasy ears I just love. I decided to keep them a bit lower and more subtle than Hollow's, and went with a basic sheep ear. I also went ahead and sculpted some thigh pieces and decided to connect them to the torso with a top ball joint. Thigh joints are still not my forte, but I'm working on it. I used to think knees were the bane of my existence, but spoilers, now it's thigh joints. I decided on a really simple ball, and I think with a bit of work, it could be made into a classic mobility joint. Not quite a peanut, but a good start, I'd say. I also went ahead and sculpted some knee joints, just really basic peanuts with the little divot things in them. So this is what the thigh joints look like when I was finished. Okay, so whenever you see me with this little black tray, it's because the baby's about to go into the oven. I do 275 degrees for about 25 minutes. If I'm just adding a touch of clay to the pieces, I'll do more like 15 minutes. Cutting time. I scratched out the shape of the faceplate before baking, and then I used my little poker thing to chisel it out. Then I'll use pliers to crush and slowly remove the foil. I'm lucky and it came out really easily. I also use an X-Acto knife to trim down all of the jagged pieces and to trim down the outside and the inside of the joints of all of the other baked pieces for fit. If this were a doll and not just a concept doll, I would smooth them out fully with a Dremel. Since I'll be making them in 3D next, there really wasn't a need in this case. I pretty much stick to Blender these days, but for me, when I use Blender, I don't have the same, inspiration. There's a difference when you feel the clay under your hands and form something tangible. I just like to see a doll's face and shape come together. That doesn't mean they stay clay though. My first BJD Hollow had many clay iterations before coming the adorable resin baby I have today. However, I decided to make this doll much smaller, 6 scale, to save on time and materials. This is quickly becoming my favorite way to sculpt, starting with the clay for the base concept, then translating that into 3D sculpting. It's so much easier to see proportions and symmetry in 3D, and it gives you ease of mind knowing if you break a 3D printed prototype, you have a backup copy. But gosh, I really love sitting and making little faces in clay. Alright, back to the video. So here I have the thigh piece and the knee piece that were kind of finished-ish, and I sculpted a lower leg, and I've put another strip of polymer clay over top of the knee to kind of give it a smoother finish, like you would see with like a doll leaves doll. I also go ahead and kind of size out beads and how I would do the arm joints. These didn't turn out great. You'll see that later. They're too long. The joints themselves are okay, but you'll see. It's too long. Onto the feet. I love sculpting little feet. I did keep these really basic, and they're much smaller proportionately than Hollows are. I also decided to use a little piece of metal this time. Typically when I sculpt feet, I'll do like a weird hole in the polymer clay. This time I snapped apart a piece off of a bobby pin and used that kind of where you would put the S-hook or put the string under, and it looked a lot better. So I'll probably do this for future creations as well. Alright, on to the shoulder joints and the elbow joints and the lower arms and wrists and hands. Oh my gosh, this is so much work. Also, hands, the other bane of my existence. They always look like lobster claws and I can never get the shape quite right in clay. For some reason, hands are something that is much easier for me in Blender. I don't know. Maybe it's because I don't have to be so fiddly with it. And you can zoom in and make it as big as you need it to. So this is basically where we end. Once I string her together, I don't have any elastic, but I used thread. No, you can't use thread for this, obviously, but I just wanted the pieces to hold together somewhat. 6mm eyes also fit really well, and most of the body is cute. Let's not talk about the arms, and why they're giving Slenderman a run for his money. Oof, I know those will need to be shortened. If you're already subscribed to my channel, thanks so much for subscribing. If you're new here, I hope you like the content and will consider subscribing. As always, I hope you have a fantastic day. Bye!